Donald Trump is almost sort of preemptively working ahead of what we're going to have coming down the pike on Tuesday night. In other words, he's lashing out at ABC, a company that he's actually suing, by the way, because of what he would say is libel for their coverage of some of those legal challenges that he ran into. So he specifically is suing ABC News, parent company is Disney, don't forget, and he is suing George Stephanopoulos, who's the guy who's going to be anchoring the whole shindig. He went on Hannity's program last night on Fox, obviously a very receptive audience there, and he took a few pot shots, shall we say.
They are the most dishonest network, the meanest, the nastiest, but that was what I was presented with. I was presented with ABC, George Slopadopoulos, you know who he is. And he's a nasty guy. And yet, he's a nasty guy. I've had him up to here. But let me tell you, he's a very, very bad kind of a guy. But I watched his interview of Joe Biden. It was like the softest interview I've ever seen. It was softer than the CNN interview of Kamala.
Interesting. So he feels, I think, pretty strongly that there's a bias there. Now, let's be real, shall we? George Stephanopoulos worked for Clinton. He was the press person, the flack, the spokesperson for the Clinton White House. So clearly, he's got a bias, shall we say. I mean, he made his living working for the Democrat Party until he got a gig at Disney, ABC. So one can expect a certain, but look, it's par for the course, right? I mean, this is all that happens, right? You have a certain amount of bias in the media, and I think Donald Trump is finally calling it all out, calling it out to their faces. Now some will say, maybe you shouldn't have done that. He was playing to his audience, right? That was his crowd. He knew he had a live audience, and they loved it. He said, Sean, ABC, they're the worst. They're the worst. And yeah, next time you'll moderate it. Like Kamala would ever let that happen. Think about it. Fox has been trying to get a debate. Forget about it, shall we say. Forget about it. I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway, in the meantime, you get some back channeling going on where the Kamala campaign, they had been trying, to change all the rules. For example, she wanted to have her notes ahead of the debate, right in front of her. Trump didn't like the idea of that, especially given that they had already agreed to a whole set of rules. Mind you, back when Biden was at the top of the Democrat ticket, before Kamala was installed. So they had a set of rules. She wasn't supposed to bring her notes, right? You were just supposed to be there with a pad and paper and some water. And you were supposed to be standing. Well, Kamala didn't want to stand. And I have every reason to believe it's a little bit like, unless it was George Stephanopoulos. Well, it is. What am I saying? George probably doesn't want to stand either. George. Kamala. So Donald Trump is going to be the elephant in the room, like literally, like the biggest, tallest person on stage. So she didn't like that idea. She tried to make sure that it was a sitting interview. That didn't happen. I mean, I don't know. What's next? Is she going to take away the water? No water? She doesn't want the mics open. She feels that America would be better served. Forgive me, she does want the mics open. She feels that America would be better served if the microphones were open. And this is what we're hearing from her campaign over and over again on the cable airwaves, leading some to think that, she's still trying to back channel something here, maybe try and goad Donald Trump into saying, sure, what the heck, why not? Open those microphones. His campaign doesn't want those microphones open because they feel that it's a more disciplined environment, and clearly that worked to his advantage, shall we say, last time around with none other than Biden, who couldn't string a sentence together for 2 minutes. I think Kamala might be sort of the same deal here, because without Trump interrupting her, you may just get a lot of word salad, this kind of stuff.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, What can be unburdened by what has been.
Oh dear, I'm just waiting for the, Anyway, I'm going to play for you in just a moment what the Kamala camp is out there saying. But first, a quick word from one of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show, none other than American Heart for Gold. Go to TrishLovesGold.com. Trish Loves Gold. I do. You know that. Anyway, I do believe it's a big part of a diversified portfolio, or a part, I should say. How big? That's really up to you, because you are your best gauge, I think, for risk. You can text my name, Trish, to 65532. Text Trish to 65532. American Hartford Gold, trishlovesgold.com. They have a special offer for those of you that are looking to purchase gold. You can get up to $15,000 in free silver. So that's a pretty big deal. If you text Trish, Trish, to 65532, you can call them at 1-844-495-1115. Obviously, I am very, very concerned about all the money printing. I have been since I began this show. And sure enough, what has happened? Gold has gone up. Look, if you continue to print money in society, and I don't see any other way around it, frankly. I mean, Trump's talking about an efficiency bureau with Elon Musk. That might help. But look, you've got a lot of waste in this government. You have a lot due by way of interest. So that interest on the debt is going to continue to be very costly, therefore driving the value of your US dollar down. And as a result, you want to have some kind of diversification tool in your portfolio. Just text Trish to 65532. Anyway, you've got a situation where dare I say, surrogates for the campaigns, those are the reporters, that are supposed to be out on the reporting trail. They're talking about how really, the campaigns feel that it would be so much better. Kamala Harris feels it would be so much better if those microphones were open. And this is what one NBC reporter was saying on the MSNBC airwaves today. Take a listen.
Well, what we will see on Tuesday night is 90 minutes where the two candidates, former President Trump, current Vice President Kamala Harris, they'll be meeting for the very first time face-to-face. And there will be no notes, no props, and there'll be a back and forth. And the microphones are scheduled to be off when one party is not speaking. So the focus would remain on the candidate who is directed a question. And if there is back and forth, the Harris campaign has been trying to at least get the network that's providing the debate to consider opening up mics if there's a lot of overtalk. They're also expecting to have a part of the pool that travels with the candidates be in the room, in the studio space that they're creating in Philadelphia, to be able to observe as journalists if there is talking that happens that is not directly on the television signal because of the microphone situation. So we'll see how all of that unfolds. Of course, as you pointed out, these were rules that were originally agreed to when Joe Biden was intending to run and were used during the first debate from June 27th. And so to some degree, the Trump campaign, in just the simple art of negotiation, doesn't like to give up something it already had, while the Harris campaign really viewed this as a new opportunity with a new candidate to try to set up a dialogue and an interchange.
No, not a dialogue. Just this new set of rules that would be advantageous to her, that wouldn't showcase how short she is in stature, that wouldn't showcase how she doesn't know all these numbers and statistics and information off the top of her head because she wants to use the notes, and that wouldn't showcase her word salad. They were hoping Donald Trump would just interrupt. Well, here's the deal, guys. The rules are the rules. Dare I say, the rules are the rules. I mean, I know, I get it. For the left, they feel that they can change them mid-game. I mean, obviously, they changed their candidate, for goodness sakes. I mean, if they're willing to change their candidate, think of what they're willing to change. And yet, it doesn't matter. You saw the latest Rasmussen poll. Trump there, 53% versus Harris at 47%. This is amazing. I reported on this yesterday for you guys because I think it's really important to take a look at these numbers and these graphs, right? I'm a financial person. I like charts. When you look at this Rasmussen report's graphic, I think it says a whole lot to you because you see that crossover. He is darting ahead. In other words, when you talk momentum, the momentum right now is with Donald Trump. Amazingly, they're seeing something like 53 to 37. That's incredible, right? Well, forgive me, that was actually back in July. And then if you go down, you see August. There was a sense that there was no way in HELL that Harris would ever be able to pull off a win. And then as soon as she was announced, what do you know? Oh, everybody loved her. And now they don't really love her so much anymore. So much so that it looks like Trump 53, Harris 47. This is Rasmussen. The other thing I want to show you is Nate Silver's prediction models, in which, he keeps climbing ahead here. This is really fascinating to me. 56.7% there in the Nate Silver prediction model. And I think that's really relevant here. I mean, take a look. Wow, those are pretty stunning numbers. And this is not something at all that anybody would have been talking about or even thought about just a few weeks ago. So a massive sort of shift. Momentum is with him. So in this scenario, it becomes sort of his to lose effectively. And that's why there is so much riding on this debate. It is why Kamala Harris is doubling down, trying to prep, trying to do what she can to be able to confront the reality that is, frankly, just, in my estimation, and you know how I feel on this, just better policy. Frankly, just better policy. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Policy matters, right? And we don't have enough of it. There isn't enough talk about policy. It's one of the reasons why I'd love for you to go and check out my friends at Project 25. You can get the truth about Project 25 if you go to 25truth.org, and they have a whole sort of, it's not in the shadows. They try and pretend, okay, this whole thing is in the shadows. It's the Heritage Foundation. Oh my goodness. And the reality is this: they're talking about things that are so critical to our foundation as a society. The left is always trying to paint the right as somehow diabolical. Few other words that I won't use. And, when you look at this and you think that, oh, it's some hidden agenda. No, it's not hidden. It's right out there for everybody to see. And it's actually really good stuff. Like, let's make sure that we're educating as many people as we possibly can to really protect this meritocracy, the system that is the American dream. Or, for example, to really utilize all the energy we have. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Green, fossil fuels, everything. Let's be energy independent in every sense of the word. So go check it out. I do encourage you to do that. I'll leave the link in the notes as well for the show, 25truth.org.